What's going on, everybody? Katie Barrett, online instructor with Show Up Fitness Internship, coming at you from my garage gym in Memphis, Tennessee. Today we're going to talk about training elderly and older population clients, all right? I want to go over a couple conditions and terms that you need to know before you start training this population, all right? These are things that can be reversed, all right? Just because you're aging doesn't mean that you can't get a lot of this back, okay? So the first one being sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass due to age, all right? And I got this from Dr. Andy Galpin, these figures. So we lose muscle mass as we age at about 0.5 to 1% per year, okay? Also atrophy, which is the loss of strength due to not using your muscles, all right? So the loss of strength occurs at 2 times or 3 times the rate of sarcopenia, the loss of mass. And then the loss of power, which we know is strength times speed, dynapenia is called, occurs at a rate at double or triple the loss of strength. So 13.5 to 27% per year as we age. So you can see that the loss of power goes down very, very quickly with aging, all right? Another big thing that you're going to see is that a lot of older people have been diagnosed with, you know, a lot of things. You're diagnosed with this, you're osteopenia, osteoporosis, you have XYZ, whatever diagnosis that they're going to get from a doctor, that is going to stick in their brain, okay? So in their mind, they're broken. They can never be fixed. Nothing better can ever happen to them because they've been diagnosed with something. This is not true. So something you want to address is their mindset about their current state, right? They may be feeble. They may not be able to do all the things that they used to do, and that wears on your mind, especially in men, okay? They may have been able to do X, Y, and Z 5 years ago, but now they can barely get up out of a chair. So that's something very, very important, is to address that mental state. Functional fitness, you hear that term a lot, but I want to say that, like, literally this means functional. Can I function in my everyday life? Can I stand up from a chair? Can I reach above my head and get something from a cabinet without dropping it on my face? Do I have the mobility to reach above my head? That's a big thing too. Older people tend to get very stiff, very rigid because they're not moving as much as they once were. Osteopenia, so weak bones, usually starts to occur after 50. Now, the osteopenia doesn't happen to everybody, okay? If you had strong bones as you were growing up and as you were a teenager, adolescent, middle adulthood, and you've been training and strength training and your bones are strong, you may not get osteopenia. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to get this, but if you do, it generally occurs after 50. And they can read this by doing an x-ray of your bone mineral density and the thickness of your bone. And here's the ratings here. -1 and -0.25 is going to be osteopenia, and then above that, -2.5 is going to be osteoporosis, where new bones are not made quickly enough to keep up with the old bone loss. So these are some terms that I want you all to know, and now we're going to get into programming for this population. Designing a program for an older client, of course we want to take their goals into consideration. However, a lot of their goals are just going to be doing basic things that they do in everyday life, or that they used to be able to do in everyday life, but they struggle now. All right, so we're still going to be pulling from our core patterns of movement. As we know, we have our squat, our hinge, our unilateral, horizontal push and pull, vertical push and pull, and our transitional and jumps, okay? We're helping our clients do these functional things that they need to do every single day better, okay? Building their confidence in their own abilities, in their bodies, and what they can do as opposed to what they can't do. So sitting, if you ever watch an older person try to sit down, they're usually going to reach a point where they go to sit and then they just literally fall into their chair because they've lost that neuromuscular control. They have lost that muscle strength to hold them in that very hard position, all right? Standing, getting them in a proper position. So you'll see older people have to kind of scoot to the edge of their recliner to get out of their recliner, and they usually have to do 3 or 4 attempts in order to actually just stand up from a reclining chair. So teaching them the proper positioning, how to drive through the heels, how to use your quads and your glutes to actually stand up is super important. We're also going to see older people with balance problems. Now, we know that a lot of older people have the issue, they fall, they break a hip, okay? You don't hear about your neighbor, your 35-year-old neighbor falling and breaking a hip, but you do hear about, you know, people's mothers and fathers falling and breaking a hip, all right? So that actually increases their chance of death within a year after that fall. So we want to prevent those falls by working on balance. Speed, being able to react quickly. If they trip, to be able to catch themselves quickly. Of course, we talked about power, which is strength times speed. Mobility. You'll see a lot of older people are very rigid because they're not moving around and they're not doing as much as they used to do, and they're not getting in certain positions. All right. And also cardiovascular health is going to be super important. So we want to focus with our normal clients. We don't spend too much time warming up. However, with our older population, you do want to spend more time warming up. So getting in those different planes of motion, not just the sagittal, but the transverse and the frontal planes. And we do want to get their heart rate going, and we want to get their blood flowing, all right? So I usually spend between 5 to 7 minutes slowly building up to where we're getting their heart rate up, okay? It's going to take our older population a little bit longer to warm up, so just spending a little more time there. So when we apply this, all right, I've written a program here for someone who has not quite experienced that severe loss of strength or muscle mass, all right? And I've started with a squat into an elevated push-up, so I have 2 core patterns there, into a low step up, something like maybe 6 inches to start with. Like thinking of just a step in someone's house is about 6 to 7 inches, so maybe starting there, okay? Into an overhead dumbbell press. You start off seated and you can move to standing as a more advanced progression, all right? And then something that's really overlooked is a get up. So if the older person does end up falling, and what we see sadly a lot of times is someone falls and they cannot get up off of the ground to call for help. So they end up unfortunately passing away. So teaching them how to get up off the floor from a laying down position on their, prone, or if they're on their back in a supine position, we want to teach them how to get up, all right? So that would cover our transitional pattern where your base of support is changing. And then we're going to go into a little power exercise. If you have like a little 8-pound, I have an 8-pound slam ball over there filled with sand, where we're going to do some ball slams. If your client is at the point where they can reach over their head, we're going to forcefully throw that ball into the floor. My older client absolutely loves ball slams. It gives him a chance to be loud. It gives him a chance to slam something. It gives him a chance to move quickly and safely, all right? So now, if you have a client who isn't quite at that point, I have regressed the entire workout here. So we're going to do, instead of a regular body weight squat, we're going to do a stand-up. So where they're literally just sitting on something. And even if you have a chair at your house that you want to help them practice how to get up, so basically they're sitting and they go into a standing position, all right? It's kind of like a bench or a box squat, all right? Into a single jointed movement with a bicep curl, and into a low step up once again, because that's an everyday function that they need to master. Into a tricep extension. Even if you have a band, if you're working at a commercial gym, you probably have access to a cable machine. And then once again with our literal get-ups from the floor, into just simply walking with your client. If you're at a corporate gym, maybe around the perimeter of the gym. If you're training out of your garage, maybe down the street and back, okay? That's gonna work on our cardio, maybe getting into a little bit of zone 2 heart rate for their cardiovascular system, all right? So things we wanna keep in mind when training the elderly is that we wanna keep it like medium to low reps. If we go super high reps, chances are they're going to be really sore, and we do not want that. We don't want to discourage them from coming back and working with us, and we just don't want them to be super sore. So keeping it medium to low reps, kind of avoiding that overly eccentric movement, because we know that that's what makes us super sore. Making sure that they're getting enough protein. A lot of our older people are not getting anywhere close to enough protein just for basic daily life, not to mention trying to build muscle, okay? So usually I think it's 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. So, if they have someone that can, if you're a Show Up Fitness nutrition certified person, you can pretty much recommend what they should have for protein intake each day. And then also hydration is going to be super important as well. All right, so if you have any questions about this, shoot me a message at abovethebar.fitness on Instagram. Leave a comment below if you found this helpful. And once again, this is just kind of like an overview. There's a lot more aspects that we can go into with training elderly clients. I do plan to make some more videos on that, but this is a very basic, this is the regressed, and this is kind of a progressed version of a workout. So hope y'all enjoyed.